Welcome at Pizza and More. After we made now several special pizza, like the Bavarian pizza called Brizza, and the Turkish pizza, the lahmacun, and also the Chicago style pizza, I thought we make this time again a typical Italian pizza. I'm Jürgen and we make this time a typical Neapolitan pizza, a very easy Neapolitan pizza, which everybody could make by himself, of course, at home. The dough we will make will follow in most of the parts the rule set of the AVPN, so the Associazione Verace Pizza Napoletana, which also means we make a direct dough without any pre-dough. We will make a hydration of our dough with 60%, which means in our dough we will use 500 grams of flour, and then we also have to use 300 grams of cold water. As you know, the relationship of water to the flour, this is the hydration. And I already said 300 grams of water. I really strongly recommend also to balance the water, because milliliters is always different. This depends on temperature and on some other circumstances, but the weight is always the same. The hydration of 60% is something which is really in the middle of our rule set from the AVPN, because the AVPN rules that we have to have 55 to 62% hydration in a real Neapolitan pizza. With our 60% hydration, we will have a very hot temperature in the oven, which means we need in the dome 480 degrees if you have a oven with a dome. If not, then you have to have this temperature which the oven is able to provide. So as I said, at the top 480 degrees would be ideal, and on the stone between 380 and 420 degrees. 380 and 420 degrees. This is also something which is in the rules of the AVPN. Generally, we could say the lower the hydration, the higher the temperature, and the other way around, the lower the hydration, the higher the temperature. We will have a leavening time, a total leavening time for our dough of 24 hours at room temperature. And this 24 hours is also something which is out of the rule set of the AVPN, because they say, the new rules say the dough should rise between 12 and 24 hours. As we have a leavening time of 24 hours, I would recommend to use a flour with a medium baking strength. So with a W value from 250 to 320, something in this range, and a protein value between 12 and 13%. And I really would also recommend to use a flour which fits to the leavening time. If you use a flour with a very high baking strength, so with a high W value, and you let the dough rest only a very short time, so below 24 hours, it could be the case that the taste of the flour is not developed properly, and that the dough, the gluten structure of the dough is still too strong, and it's not possible to stretch the pizza properly, and it's not possible to have a nice feeling when you eat the pizza, because then it's like gummy. And the other way around, if you have a flour with an absolutely low baking strength and you have a long leavening time, so over 24 hours, it could be then also the case that the dough gets sticky again, because the water can't be kept anymore in the dough, because the gluten structure breaks, and there is the possibility that the pizza breaks, and of course the pizza might stay flat when we bake it, because the gas could not be kept inside of the dough if the gluten structure is broken. Of course, you could also make this dough or this pizza in a normal kitchen oven. Then it's not a real Neapolitan pizza anymore. Then it's a pizza Neapolitan art or Neapolitan style or something like this. And if you want to know everything about how to make a pizza in a normal kitchen oven, please have a look in this video. There I show and I explain everything. And now I would say we have a look to our ingredients. The ingredients we need for our dough are very less as for each Neapolitan pizza, of course. I have here, as I already said, 500 grams of 00 flour. This flour has a protein value of 12% and a medium baking strength. I have 300 grams of very cold water. Then I have here 15 grams of fine sea salt. And of course, because we have a leavening time only at room temperature, I have a very little amount of dry yeast. It's only 0.2 grams dry yeast. If you want to use fresh yeast, then 0.6 grams. And to make the dough, we pour at first the whole water into the bowl. Don't wonder that the machine is not clean. I already made some dough for the German video. Then as next, we add the flour. And we add the yeast. And then we start the mixer at a low speed for around 5 minutes. And then we add the salt and we continue kneading for around 15 minutes until we are able to make the window test. Today I measured the temperature of my dough. Normally I'm really totally ignoring the temperature, but today I measured it. And my dough has, of course, over 28 degrees. But I can tell you the temperature is important, but it doesn't matter if the dough gets over 27 or in my case now 28 degrees, because it works. I know lots of people are saying 23, 24 degrees and then it's finished, but I can tell you for me, it doesn't matter. However, I think the dough is now ready kneaded. Really, if we have that low hydration, it could be the case because there is more mechanical power inside of the dough due to the low hydration that the dough gets warmer. But as I said, I made good experience and so I normally ignore the temperature of the dough. I think the dough is now ready and I will try to make the window test. Therefore I cover my hands with water because then the dough might not stick that heavy to my fingers. You could also use flour or olive oil. Then I take out of the bowl a piece of dough. I roll a ball and then I stretch this dough. And if it's possible to stretch this dough very thin, then the window test works and the gluten structure is built properly and you can see it works. The gluten structure is built perfectly and now I can take the dough out onto my counter. If we then have the dough on our counter, we shape a nice dough ball. For this we make the technique which is called stretch and fold. So we take the dough from the left and from the right, we lift it up, put it back onto the counter, we stretch it here and we fold it over. And then we do this several times and we try then to keep always the top on top. And we try here to strengthen the surface. And you see how this works. We get a really smooth surface. If we are in this state and we have done it several times, then we can turn this piece of dough, then we can pull it, because the bottom of the dough sticks to the counter and therefore it stretches also the surface. It's important not to roll the dough ball. No, we let it this side always on top and we only pull it and we turn it. And then you can see we get an absolutely smooth dough ball. And then we take a container or a box or whatever. We take our dough ball place it into the container, and of course it's very important to close the lid to protect the dough from drying out. And now we let the dough raise at room temperature for around 12 hours. If you have mozzarella which is in that salty water, it's important to put the mozzarella out of this liquid. If it's a normal mozzarella or mozzarella di bufala, then please cut the mozzarella traditionally into slices. If it is fior di latte, then please cut the fior di latte into sticks, because this is then also traditional. In any case, it's important to take the cheese out of the liquid and to cut it and to put it into a sieve and let it drain for 12 or even 24 hours, of course, in the fridge, so that all the water has the possibility to go out of the cheese. Round about 12 hours later, it's now time to make the pizza boys. You may wonder why I make the pizza boys only right now and not directly after kneading. This is a simple explanation. When I do it right now, I bring new oxygen and new energy into the dough, which means the microorganism and the yeast gets new energy, and this is for me an advantage for the fermentation, and this is an advantage for the raising of the dough. I prepared a video of this, you will find it here. There I compared lots of different variations from bulk and boil fermentation. What we are doing right now is we bring the dough from the so-called bulk fermentation to the boil fermentation. I will now make 3 identical pizza boils or dough boils for now. I think each will have 275 grams. And this is also then something which follows the rules from the AVPN, because the AVPN says dough ball for a pizza with a diameter of 30 to 35 centimeters should have not more than 280 grams. These 3 dough balls have now round about a weight of 270-ish grams. And now I shape the pizza boys. To make the pizza boys, there are different possibilities. You will find all of them or lots of them on my channel already. I normally make it like this. You see, I take the dough and I stretch it here and I push it towards the center and the bottom. And then here, the surface of the dough strengthens nicely, and this is exactly what we need, because so we avoid that our dough balls afterwards running flat. And then if we have here a nice and strong surface, we have a look at the bottom, that the bottom is really closed very well. And then we put the dough ball back into the box. If we shape the 3 dough balls, it's absolutely important again to close the lid. And then we let it rest at room temperature until we bake our pizza. What I said earlier regarding the temperatures of the oven. The pizza should be, and this Neapolitan is a very easy one, it should be really for everyone. If you have an oven which is not that hot or is not able to produce that high temperature, it's also nice. I only want to tell you, or wanted to tell you, what the AVPN has on rules. So these are the rules for the AVPN, but you can bake in your oven, in the oven whatever you have, and this will be also great. I said this for everyone. That's the reason why we made a dough which had a leavening at room temperature, because not everybody has a fridge at home where such a dough ball box has enough space. I'm lucky I have in my fridge space for 3 such boxes, because in the basement I have a special fridge for my dough. But nevertheless, this pizza is really very easy. The dough rose, my dough rose as well, 24 hours now at room temperature. All the toppings are prepared. The oven is preheated, and now we start. Here is now our dough, or our dough balls, and you can see they rose absolutely fantastic, even if we used only 0.2 grams of yeast. Now it's very important to use enough semula, because we have to take them out very gently, otherwise the dough might be stressed, and as soon as the dough is stressed, then we are not able anymore to stretch a nice pizza. I use the spatula to push all the semolina under the dough ball, then I lift it out, and now it's absolutely important to close again the box so that we avoid the remaining dough balls drying out. It's now important in the semolina bed to flip this dough sometimes around. Then we take it out. We are very gentle, as I said. I don't press the dough and I don't stretch the dough. If it's not round, I shape now a round form, and then we start creating Neapolitan pizza. We press all the air from the center towards the crust. As we want to make a pizza which follows almost the rule set of the AVPN, it is important to leave not that much dough at the crust, because a Neapolitan pizza, and this is what the rule set says, has a crust which is between 1 and 2 centimeters. Now I add the tomato sauce. The tomato sauce is made like also, of course, the AVPN says, it's only a can of San Marzano tomatoes with 4 grams of fine sea salt, and the tomatoes are tiered by hand. If you want to make your tomato sauce on a different way, please feel free. If you are interested everything which is important around the tomato and about the Neapolitan, the real Neapolitan tomato sauce, the whole video and everything which is important is in the video description. And now we add some tomatoes onto our pie. The next we add is fresh grated Parmesan cheese. Then I add some fresh basil. And then it's already time for the mozzarella. In my case, as you can see, I have here slices of mozzarella. This is buffalo mozzarella. And then it's already time for the oven. Therefore, we add some semolina onto the peel. We lift the pie. We push the peel under. And now it's time to stretch the pizza to its final size. In my case here, it's 33 centimeters. And then it's time for some olive oil. And the pizza is ready for the oven. And here comes the nice pizza out of the oven. And we add now some leaves of fresh basil. And you can see the crust is exactly like we expected from a real Neapolitan pizza. You need to know, and I'm pretty sure you know it, this is totally different to a contemporanea, because the Neapolitan pizza is not that airy. However, it's absolutely fantastic and it's tasty. I will now cut into this nice pizza. And also here you can see the crust is full of air and it's super crispy. And now, of course, I have the pleasure to taste the nice pizza. At first, as always, I will try something from the center. And you can say whatever you want. A Neapolitan margherita is so fantastic. Now I will try and taste the crust as well. And also the crust tastes absolutely fantastic. I have to say I used this time a new flour. I never ever used this kind of flour before, but it was super easy to handle. It tastes great and it was the perfect flour exactly for this kind of pizza. If you like my video, it would be fantastic if you would subscribe my channel, and then we see us also in the next video. Ciao!